Ooh, this is exotic. Muscle Cat Media. Nice. Cultural.
Back on the Expats on Tuesday, the 18th of August. Eric is not here. He's in a bush. Well, he's not, based on the most recent update, which we'll get to. But it's Rolsey and the Glue Guy, Spoon, here with you on a Tuesday as we roll toward the middle and end part of August. Like, where has the year gone? I feel like I say that every week, but it feels like we're here all the time. Doesn't feel like the weeks pass. Spoon, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm glad I'm still the glue guy after bailing late on the weekend pickoff. It's good to know that it's more of a three-strike policy here at Baseball Expats, in tune with the sport we know and love.
It takes more than once to lose that title, with the amount of times that you've bailed us out, including like the lost episodes that never were, when you just like recorded by yourself for 15 minutes and they just never made their way to the internet.
Some of my best content.
Yeah, I would agree. Sometimes I listen to it. It's in my own personal collection. Speaking of Eric being in a bush, I just sent you a photo. Bush means the woods, for those that weren't with us yesterday on the Destiny Draft episode. That Nissan X-Trail that he spent like thousands of dollars and days of his life to get fixed looks like it might be in an awful bit of bother wherever he is at the moment.
Yeah, I think, much like my D-backs and at times his Blue Jays, I think he's going to leave a few men stranded at the moment. And look, he said to us the reason for this trip was to learn to eat off the land or live off the land. And said to you off air, I hope he's done that before wherever he's stuck now, because he could definitely probably need to lean on some of those witchetty grub harvesting skills.
I want you to explain to the listeners what this photo looks like, because it almost looks like he was trying to test the abilities of his newly serviced Nissan X-Trail, because he's in a ditch. I'll let you describe it, but it looks as though he found this trouble. This trouble didn't find him, from what I can tell, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, not to backseat drive from afar, but there's clearly
well,
two
that's exactly
tire
what we're
tracks.
doing, but yeah.
Yeah, there's like a tire track for the left tire and a tire track for the right tire if you want to go on the path that, those who have gone before you were inclined to take. Instead, he's got his right tire on the left track and his left tire on the edge of the road in a ditch, which honestly does look somewhat self-inflicted.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any other tire tracks that are sort of heading in that direction. It's almost like he was. I feel looking. We're making all this up because he sent me this photo hoping that it would get to us and wasn't sure that it was, because he said he had less than one bar of service. I don't know how you have less than one bar of service, but I imagine that he's like close to his destination and it was very chuffed with the way that the X-Trail was performing, and maybe looked over at Sarah and was like, hey, check this out. And
Are
then
you thinking what I'm thinking? Aim for the bushes.
It's very other guys. I mean, I guess the other thing, like they didn't fall off of a 15-story building into a bush. He's clearly trying to drive into the bush, and well, it's safe to say that I think he's going to be a little later than what he expected.
Yeah, by the time we do our Did It Happen segment, we could be talking about who won the World Series.
Did it happen? Did Eric end up at his destination or not? Maybe, though, did it happen? Speaking of arriving at their destination late or not arriving at all, Ketel Marte didn't show up to Fenway Park today. That was kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked a bit on this show before about some of the weird stuff that happens with Ketel. This is easily the weirdest to happen yet. I mean, there's been times over the years where he just says he wants an off day because he's like tired or stressed, and the fans kind of, rightly or wrongly ride him a little bit for that. But then when the moment is there, he's sort of our most, clutch player in a lot of ways. And I think he's had 3 walk-off hits this year. So he seems to kind of ride that line between whenever pressure's starting to mount, he just delivers and all is forgiven. This is going to be a really interesting one because he posted on his Instagram that he was on the plane to Boston. So it's not like he's just had enough with the D-backs after the stuff that happened the last few days and he's ducked off to the Dominican Republic, because that was the expectation from a lot of people on D-backs Reddit was, well, he's just going to go from Atlanta to the DR and we won't see him again. But he headed to Boston. He was in the lineup today and then he was scratched late. So look, benefit of the doubt, you want to think that maybe there's some kind of family emergency or something that's pulled him away. There's no details out yet on what led to that. But I can't remember seeing something like that happen where the guy scratched from the lineup and put on the restricted list because he didn't turn up at the ballpark. Like fans on D-back Reddit were just like, so he's in Boston and he's just doing like a cultural tour. I did an awesome ghost tour in Boston many years ago. Jack the Ripper, I think it was, or the Boston Strangler. Maybe he's just kind of getting in touch with his cultural side and forgot that we got a series opener against the Red Sox, and it would have been handy to have him when we lost 11-1.
It's the second time in like 3 weeks that we've been talking about a player on a team that we support just not turning up, refusing to play. Remember we talked about it with Adam Dewey and in the West Tigers of the NRL a few weeks ago. Like, it just seems strange because the news came out initially and it was just like, oh, he's been put on the reserve list and there was no reason for why. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, but he was in the lineup. And then it's like, he didn't show up at the ballpark. So and again, like, these guys are grown-ups. They're big leaguers. I think we like to think that teams professionally, particularly the larger major sports in America, that they all travel together and hang together and stick together. That's not the case at all, right? Like, guys go their separate directions. You may only see guys at the ballpark, even though, you're staying at the same hotel, and, guys have different relationships and people that they want to see and talk to in different towns, et cetera, right? So, I mean, that all plays into it. But at the end of the day, you've got a job to do. And I get if you're frustrated with the organization, and you have been over time, but I can't imagine that just not showing up for your team is going to bode well when it comes to negotiating a contract with a future team, right?
Yeah, it's a strange one. And look, it feels like the kind of thing that the D-backs would have loved to keep under wraps and just like hush, sweep under the rug. But like you said, it's kind of impossible when you put a guy in the starting lineup and then he's not out, and you have to give a reason, and you have to say, he's not available off the bench to pinch hit because we don't know where the hell he is. It's kind of hard to keep that quiet. And yeah, look, I mean, I hope it's not one of those cases where, and it very well could be, we look back at the end of the season, we're in these critical next 10 days for the D-backs, the most important, you could say, and things haven't really been going that well over the last week or so. If we miss a playoff spot by a few games, Ketel doesn't play, or, he's in and out like he has been, we don't look back and go, well, we didn't really buy or sell, but what would we have gotten for Ketel Marte at the deadline? And would that have just set us up for, the next 5 years or so with the core that we've already got? Because he's notably older than those guys like Corbin Carroll, Perdomo, Moreno, and now Waldschmidt as well. So it could potentially be a missed opportunity. And it's not like you can't say we didn't see this coming, because there's been signs of this sort of thing before.
Were there any rumblings about places where he could go and things you could potentially get in return from at the deadline? Like, it's always so hard. I mean, I say this all the time about experiences. It's always hard to remember what you thought an experience was going to be like before you experienced it. It's oftentimes hard to remember trades it could have been, or conversations we were having pre-trade deadline, after the trade deadline. But can you think back and remember, were there any ongoing conversations? Did it feel like at some point Ketel was on the table and there were some legitimate destinations for him? Because I can't recall.
That was more the case in preseason than the deadline. I mean, with the deadline, with where the D-backs were, all the expectation was like buy or stay put, right? I think it would have been with a 2 or 3 game buffer at the time in the wildcard spot. Those questions seemed to die down. I remember preseason, there was talk of a lot of teams interested in him. One of them was the Seattle Mariners, and he did come up as a Mariners prospect once upon a time. And they've kind of had, is it Cole Young? I think at second base is having a great season in the end anyway. But they had a big need at second base, and that kind of power switch hitting profile that Ketel provides while still playing great defense. And I mean, Ketel also spent 3-4 years playing in the outfield for Arizona too. So he's a very coveted kind of piece, right? Like a switch hitter, power hitter, can play almost anywhere. I think those chats died down at the deadline for the reasons I mentioned, but you've got to figure now, barring some kind of reasonable explanation, that the asking price now is just going to drop. And I said to one of my mates today, it reminds me a lot of the stuff you see with wide receivers in football. I mean, we don't really see this that much in baseball, but like on any given day, a wide receiver is just unhappy with the team, right? DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, like there's been plenty of examples in recent years of a guy just thinking he's bigger than the team, or he's not happy that the team isn't doing exactly what he wants. I mean, even when Philly were winning, AJ Brown was unhappy that they were winning without him getting all the touchdowns, right? We don't kind of see that as much in baseball, and we don't really see a lot of the personalities of guys at all in comparison to some of those other sports. But that was kind of the closest thing I could think of when I was working through it.
Like, I just wonder what recourse Arizona have, because, I mean, he's signed through 2030, and he's got a team option through 2031 when he'll be 37 years of age, right? So he won't have any value later in that contract. And I mean, his price goes up to upwards of $22 million a year. But if he refuses to play, surely they would have some sort of legal grounding to not have to move him and not have to pay him. I mean, you might as well move him if somebody else is going to pay that part of the deal. But I almost even think by moving him, you're going to have to pay half of his deal because nobody's going to take on that contract at the age that he is. And if he just flat out refuses to play, there has to be some sort of legal recourse to where the team can go, well, if you're not going to turn up, we don't have to pay your contract. Even though technically major league contracts are guaranteed, saying that in air quotes, there has to be some sort of stipulation for this, right? It's just what we've never really seen it in baseball. So I don't know what, and I mean, we're talking worst case scenario, worst possible outcomes here, right? It could be that something has happened and it's not as big of a deal as what we're making it out to be. But usually when there's smoke, there's fire. In instances like this, like if Ketel didn't have history, we wouldn't probably be thinking anything of this, right? But because there have been so many rumblings for years around this, and the fact that he does just have this whale of a contract, it's a fascinating situation if he just decides, nah, I'm out, I don't want to play.
Yeah, and it's weird. I mean, like, there's so much with this guy. What was it, a couple of weeks ago at the trade deadline, he deleted all his D-backs related stuff from Instagram, and then like nothing happened from that. Now, 2 weeks later, we are where we are. There's clearly so much more to the story than we know. It could be, to your point, one of those interesting ones where a lockout seems likely next year, and if a lost season is to happen, situations like these, probably somewhat annulled by that, right? Like the D-backs are probably one of those teams that go, okay, our aging, disgruntled, well-paid player who's on the books for a while doesn't want to play baseball. The good news is no one gets to play baseball. It might not, necessarily have as much of an impact.
Nobody gets to play.
Yeah. You don't want to be a D-back where you can't be anything. And then, you hope that in 12 months' time after that, the itch comes back and he's keen to play and the organization can put all their resources into, I don't want to say making him happy because I don't think any player should ever be bigger than the team, but there's obviously two sides to this as well. And Ketel, to his credit, until now has sort of not really come out publicly and said whatever it is that upsets him. And I reckon I mentioned a few months ago when we talked about Josh Naylor that it seemed like all the media leaks about Ketel were Josh Naylor leaking them because as soon as he was traded away, they stopped. Now we're back to where we were. But there's clearly more people that know things, and it's probably going to take a few days for it to come out.
Yeah, look, it'll be an interesting one to sort of follow because it is sort of so unlike anything that we've seen, at least recently. And the implications could be huge for the Diamondbacks. I mean, this is a team that's in a wild card spot, and at times it's showing glimpses of being one of the more fun teams in baseball. And things like this, particularly during a playoff run, could maybe cause the wheels to fall off, or cause the X-Trail to fall in a ditch, to use a very familiar metaphor.
Well, yeah, when you come out and lose by 10 runs in a series opener in Boston the day the news happened, you can't exactly say that it hasn't had an impact on the team. These are two pretty evenly matched teams, I think, and blowouts can happen anytime, but you've got to figure there was something to it when all of a sudden we're rearranging the magnets 20 minutes before first pitch because our superstar all-star player hasn't turned up to play.
Yeah, look, it's a weird one, and one that we'll continue to follow. And like I said, look, maybe hopefully we're just overblowing it. For your sake and for all D-backs fans' sake, hopefully it's something that we're overblowing and he comes back and continues to contribute. Look, going to some good news on the Spoon front, a guy that I love to hate and hate that I love, and who we always seem to wax on lyrically about when it's just you and me on the podcast and Eric is away, is PCA. Homered twice today, numbers 29 and 30, which means your 30 home run bet, which was looking very unlikely at the start of the season, is up for PCA. I still think he's going to get 35. I think you're going to come good on that top up. And I think maybe just as importantly, or maybe even more importantly, surely he is firming into unbackable odds at this point to win the MVP.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I remember where we were probably 2 months into the season. Obviously, two guys I took for 30, James Wood and PCA. I think James Wood had like 15 home runs in the first 5 or 6 weeks, and PCA had a couple. Now I'm going to be probably stiff to miss out on James Wood's 35 and even 40 top ups because he spent the last 2 or 3 weeks on the IL, and the report that came out today said he's unlikely to return before the end of August. So looking at about a month. I mean, James Wood can pick up 5 in a month. I don't know if he can pick up 10, but PCA, man, like I said to you when we were talking about him a couple of weeks ago, if you remove, the first 5 weeks of the season, and obviously everyone's better when you remove their worst 5 weeks, the pace that he's actually been on is closer to 40, 45 home run pace, because ever since something clicked for him and he seemed, more patient at the plate, like we spoke about, he's just hitting him. It feels like 2 or 3 every single week of the season. And some games, I want to say there's been 5 or 6 multi-home run games, today included, with the double. And it makes for a fun watch when you're trying to get something to 30 and you've got to take 162 games to get there. And then sometimes when he gets 1, he gets 2. What do they call him in rugby league? A doubler. PCA is kind of a doubler, right? Like when he gets 1, he often gets 2. And side note, I have no idea why they pitched to him. The winning run was already on second. You can set up a double play. He wasn't any threat to steal, and he'd already He'd already hit a homer that game. But yeah, man, I'm really happy for PCA. And look, I was just looking at it then. You can get $2.10 on tab about both guys, Ohtani and PCA, which I think is madness. I don't think Ohtani's doing anything with the bat that PCA isn't, and PCA's got gold glove defense and a much better run game this year than Ohtani has. So I still think there's value there at 210, but obviously if you're riding a 51s ticket from before the season at this point, you're just kind of investing in a little bit of a hedge on Ohtani.
Well, I don't want to pat us on the back necessarily, but I mean, this is a scenario that we envisioned. We didn't know who it was going to be, but it's a scenario that we envisioned in the preseason when Ohtani was so short, because it was like, there's no way that he can firm, and he actually did. Like there was a point where he was,
$1.08.
Like, yeah, ridiculous, right? So it did actually go the wrong direction for us, but we're like, at some point, surely you feel like he's got to be even money or better, at which time, if you've, spread your bets around and he gets to even money, then you can just about have a bet for nothing, right? Because you can lay off on Ohtani at even money. So if you took that advice in the preseason, we're looking like geniuses.
Yeah, I mean, if you had $10 on PCA at 51s, you're riding a $510 ticket. This is clearly a 2-horse race, and there's going to be some big milestones, I guess, that could move the needle over the next couple of weeks. I haven't seen if there's any update on Ohtani's potential to return to pitching, but for example, if Ohtani makes 3 starts the rest of the season and is as dominant on the mound as he was when he was pitching, then your PCA ticket's in trouble. Right now at $2.10, that's the perfect chance to put $250 on Ohtani and not sweat the rest of the way.
Yeah, and like it's also, you get to watch those two guys every day, which is fun. Watching the Dodgers, maybe not so much, but watching Ohtani, if he was on any other team, would be fantastic. Watching PCA, for me as a Cardinal fan, if he was on any other team, would be more fun. That's why I say I love to hate him and hate that I love him. But he's much-watched TV, man.
Did you see what Kyle Tucker did today? It's different to the one yesterday. I'm going to send you this now.
He dropped a fly ball in right field or something?
Again, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I love when you open Twitter these days and it's just like, Kyle Tucker, are you serious, with like fire emojis? Like, it's not actually going to be a superstar catch. It's going to be some absolute clunker. I mean, he's just playing a different game right now, and not in a good way. We kind of spoke about it off air yesterday. That contract is so bad, but the reason we're headed for a lockout is because a contract that bad should cripple an organization, or at least severely diminish their chances to be competitive. But instead, they've just traded for a 2-time Cy Young pitcher who they're going to re-sign for $500 million. And the Kyle Tucker contract is just like an accounting error at this point.
Well, like, what are they going to do with that contract?
I think they're going to hope and pray that whatever rule comes in around salary cap, and there will be some kind of rule, they need it to be grandfathered in, right? Because if they don't grandfather it in, and it's more of a situation like the NBA with the second apron, and teams are actually forced to offload some of their contracts to get under a certain amount, no one's taking that Kyle Tucker amount. So all of a sudden they have to trade away some of the guys that are, better value to get under that amount. What that looks like, I don't know. But if it's done in that way, no one's taking Tucker without, a heap of prospects being attached to it. So do you then have to trade I don't know, a Shohei Ohtani to get under the cap because none of the other pieces are really that attractive, right? Like Edwin Diaz, stupid money, 11 ERA on the season, 10 blown saves, whatever it is. Freddie Freeman, aging. Mookie Betts, aging. It'll be a really interesting situation.
But yeah, I just don't understand how like the deferments and stuff would work as well with the Dodgers. Like surely they have to hang on to that if they move Tucker. And I mean, it becomes like they're paying him $81 million technically this year, which is his salary plus the $30 million deferred. And then he's like $53.5 million player option for the next 2 years. Like he's going to pick that up. How is that a player option? Like, how is that what the deal was? Like, I don't understand. Like, in what world does this deal happen? Like, when it happened, we were saying this. And like, this is the most obvious outcome of all time for a deal.
What would he have had to do to not opt in, right? Like, would he have had to hit 75 home runs, and bat like 400 and be like, I'm going to test the market because I might get 100 million? Just an insane way that the whole thing was structured.
But also, like, they have the best farm system in baseball. You can't tell me they don't have an outfielder that they could go get and would be giving you the exact same production that Kyle Tucker's giving you this year for league minimum. I mean, you absolutely could, right? He's got a WAR of 0.3 in 117 games played. Like, you could have just gone and I mean, I don't have their prospect list pulled up, but surely there is a guy in AAA that is probably in the top 10 and as an outfielder in their farm system who is the number one farm system in baseball. Like, I mean, like I said, we bash on the Dodgers because they have all this money to spend, but like what they've done in player development is also incredible. But it's like they also just keep shitting on a lot of these. Like, you would almost hate to be a top prospect in the Dodgers organization because you feel like they're just going to spend and you're always going to have the iron gate in front of you that you're never going to be able to bust past because they're just going to use you as bargaining chips. So
it worked out in this case, on Alvarez.
Yeah, but in this case, it just feels so strange that it's like, I mean, the whole baseball world saw this coming. It was like that much money for Kyle Tucker when surely there's a guy that you can go out and get. I mean, I'm sure the Cardinals would have thought about.
Who are they bidding against?
No one, themselves, as is often the case.
It's not like they had to go $5 million over the line because someone else, like he had an 800 OPS or something, just like
I think
above average, but fine.
Something tells me that like Toronto were in the running for him, right? Like, wasn't he potentially going to go to Toronto? And like, I mean, they offered him like
money.
Yeah, and they offered him like $20 million a year or something, which Eric was like, "That's overs." And then whenever the actual deal came out, people were like, what?"
Yeah, not too dissimilar with Bo going to New York, right? Like that was another one that was just like, I know there was only a few kind of free agent bats available at that level, but there were also only a couple of teams that were really interested. So it just feels like, I'm glad it didn't happen, but the Dodgers and the Mets could have both sat down and said, we want one of these guys. Let's just half our offer because we're probably bidding against ourselves for the same guy.
Look, this could turn into a Kyle Tucker bashing podcast, and for no other reason, just because we feel like he's robbed a team that we don't like, but still feels like he's robbed a team in broad daylight. And look, depending on what happens next year, I mean, we don't know if there's no baseball. Do all salaries get null and void? Do they just pass on to the next year? What happens if there is a salary cap? Like, does this become like the highest salary that's carried over, grandfathered in if a salary cap does come in? Like, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him for a lot of different reasons. But it is funny that the Dodgers faithful have started to turn on him and essentially booed him in back-to-back days, which I think is kind of funny. But I mean, look, he can dry his tears with the $50 million of paid money and the $30 million in deferred that he's getting paid to play baseball in 2026. I don't think he cares about our opinion, to be perfectly honest, and nor should he. Just quickly, we're gonna play a game and spend some fictitious money here in just a second, as we look ahead to the postseason of the World Series. But I did just want to touch on Destiny Draft, because those who were eagle-eyed and maybe jumped on to Destiny Draft today to see what was happening would have noticed a slight inconsistency with what was drafted on Sunday and posted yesterday. Inevitably, it was going to happen at some point. I think we even spoke about it in the episode that if Eric was in a bush and one of his players was hurt, he was going to take Max Scherzer. Well, in the end, it was Tom. Robleski went on the IL before play started today, Monday in the U.S., so he has swapped Robleski for Scherzer. So Scherzer is now part of Team Tom. And look, Tom had a pretty good day. 6 points on day one is it's a heck of an effort.
Yeah, and meanwhile, as you mentioned, we did draft on Sunday. I got to watch Sunday Night Baseball yesterday, where the Mariners advised that Taylor Ward still wasn't in the lineup, but isn't going to the IL. And all I could think was, I've done it again. And the sign said, do not touch, but I can't read very well when it comes to warning labels. So there's every chance Taylor Ward maybe pinch hits off the bench tomorrow and then realizes he can't run and goes to the IL. And I'm staring down the barrel of coming fourth yet again. It'd be one of the all-time jokes to lose from where I was after round 4 or 5 to potentially be. I mean, can I be last after this round? I can, definitely.
I think you're maybe being a little bit dramatic on 0 points after day
you
one.
Haven't been where I have. Well, you have, but not lately.
I was there for a long time. I know what's the line from Dark Knight Rises? I was born in the darkness.
Yeah, you merely adopted it.
Yeah. That's what happened. And I've ooh ah or whatever the noise they make. The leap that he makes from one concrete pillar to the other, that was me in about round 4. And this is just me pulling myself out of the ashes and finding my way back to Gotham. Apologies if you haven't seen Dark Knight Rises, by the way. I think we just ruined the middle hour of the movie for you. But if you haven't seen that movie already, then
I think spoilers are fair game after 18 years, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so. This would be the least likely place to randomly get a Dark Knight Rises spoiler.
Like Tom Riddle is actually Voldemort. Sorry,
like, to be fair, like I think about this a lot when it's like you haven't seen a really popular movie and you like see it and it's like 17 years old and you really want to talk about it with somebody, but you're too embarrassed to the fact that you hadn't seen it yet. So you're like, do I bring this up?
Yeah, and now I'm in too deep, so I just have to nod and smile while spoilers happen right in front of my eyes.
Yeah, it's like, hey guys, I watched Speed last night, and now I want to talk about it. People are like, that movie was made in the 90s. I'm like, yeah, but I want to talk about it now.
I'm kind of going through The Sopranos at the moment. It's like my second time watching it, and a lot of people's first time watching it was like 15 years ago when it aired.
Yeah, like in live time. Back when you had to, it was appointment viewing, right? You had to sit down and watch it when it came on television.
Yeah.
Look, let's play a little game here as we look ahead toward the postseason. You see a lot of these kind of on social media where it's, if you had $10 to pick your team and, different guys are different prices and you have to fill out a roster, etc. And they are quite fun to do. We thought we'd maybe mix that up a little bit and just say you've got $10 to spend and you can spread it across any team to win the World Series today. How do you spend that $10? And Spoon, you're the certified tipster on this program, so I will start with you. I'm going to give you $10. And at current odds today, how would you spread that $10 about a team to win the World Series?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, obviously, you could play this a couple of ways. You could put $5 on the Dodgers at $2.60, and then theoretically have $8, right, to sprinkle around. As with the Dodgers kind of being your saver, I want to start by just ruling them out. As much as they are clearly the favorite for the point of this activity, where's the fun in just saying that the best team in baseball are going to win it all? I also think the Yankees are unders at $7.50. With no kind of clear return on Aaron Judge and all the injuries that are happening to the rotation still, it feels like Rodon, Fried, these guys just keep coming in and out a fair bit. I don't know. I think he's now going to win the AL Cy Young, unfortunately, for my Dylan Cease ticket. I don't know if I like the volume in Cam Schlittler's arm heading into the postseason. This is still a very young guy. And I just have questions around some of the starting pitching there for the Yankees now. And also, we've seen time and time again that this lineup can just go so hot and so cold when it comes to October baseball that I'm happy to put a line through them. I think there's much better teams in the AL, and I don't think the Yankees will be making the World Series. The next few is where it gets really interesting. I mean, the Brewers at $8.50 look like a bet, right? I think arguably the best rotation in baseball. If you've got Mizorowski twice in a 7-game series, there's a very good chance you're going to need to pick up 4 wins from the remaining 5 games based on if you continue doing what he's been doing. Some of the other guys in that rotation have been brilliant too. Rays at $10, Braves $11, Cubs $12, Red Sox $13, which I think is a little bit short, and then it kind of blows out a bit from there. So Look, give me $3 on the Brewers at 8.50. Give me, ugh, give me $1 on the Tampa Bay Rays, because if the Rays win, I feel like it's not a very sexy result, and neither will be getting back $10 from my $10. So I'll just have one on the Rays at 10. I'll have three on the Braves at 11. And I'm a big believer on the Braves. I can't believe they're, fourth or fifth favorite. I think it's got to do more so with potentially the path they'd have to go through. They're likely to be the 3 seed. And then they'd potentially have to beat both the Brewers and the Dodgers to get to where they need to be. But look, I think Braves at 11 is a great bet. I'll go $1 on the Cubs at 12s. And then I'm going to throw $1 on each of the two teams fighting out the final NL wildcard spot realistically. No disrespect to your Cardinals. Because I feel like if one of these teams gets hot enough to get in, they're going to be playing the right baseball at the right time. I mean, the Padres are doing that right now. So give me $1 on the Padres at 46s, $1 on the D-backs at 76s.
Ooh, D-backs at 76 seems high.
$2.10 to make the playoffs. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. If they're going to get in there on a $2.10 bet, they're going to be playing the right kind of baseball. It's going to mean probably Corbin Burns has come back, Justin Martinez has come back, Ketel Marte's sorted out whatever's going on for him. So I kind of feel like you're getting a lot of value there. And look, they'd go into a wild card round, which they won in 2023. They swept the Brewers in that season. And it's the kind of ticket where if you got, one round into October baseball, you'd have a very hefty cash out anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're backing them at that price and they make the playoffs, they're not going to be $76. Well, before you put those two bets on, I was just going to try and put some money on to eclipse what your highest return could be, but now I have to do so at $76, which means I'd have to put $10 on somebody at 8s or better, essentially.
You can put $10 on the Brewers at 8.50.
Yeah,
big Mizorowski guy.
Well, I would. I don't want to touch anybody in the NL Central just for morals.
I mean, you only have to beat my return of 760 if the D-backs win the World Series. Realistically, my return's probably going to be 0, so you could just put your $10 on the Dodgers and call it a day.
Yeah, and look, I mean, to be fair, I like this spread that you've given because realistically, I think those are the value teams. I mean, look at the teams you've stayed away from. Obviously, the Dodgers and the Yankees, the two at the top of the market. But, I mean, you've pretty much spread yourself quite well across. I mean, maybe the one team that you left out that I could see doing something just because they have sort of the American League equivalent of Cardinal Devil Magic is the Houston Astros. Like, that's the kind of team that when they get to the postseason, you never really know.
And so I think I declared them dead, in June. They're now 5 games.
So maybe I'll just have $10 on them. They're morals at this point.
Yeah,
Spoon buried them.
And look, I mean, they're getting players back at the right time, which it didn't seem like it was going to be the case. And they've got the American League MVP hitting hopefully 45 home runs. He still needs 9 more to get there, but maybe 40. Hunter Brown's kind of slowly figuring it out after a lot of time off. I don't trust the rotation for the Astros, to be honest. I mean, Hunter Brown in 2026 isn't the same guy he was in 2025. And they've just kind of, the guys like Javier haven't come back the same. They were hoping McCullers was going to figure it out. They ended up cutting him. I'm not sure they've got the pitching for an October run as much as the offense can carry them over the line on any given day. I guess the Phillies are the other one in there as well that, probably deserve a mention, but I feel like with the Phillies, they're a team that kind of maybe got too hot too early, and that big run they got from making the managerial change got them into the position they were. I mean, they were 11 games under 500 at some point, so to be where they are is almost a success. But it feels like they'd need to go on another run to then pull that off, and I'm not sure we often see teams go on 2 of those kind of runs in 1 year.
Yeah, but look, I think what I'm going to do, the way that I'm going to play this is because, look, I think the Dodgers get to the NLCS. So if you use that logic, there's no sense in backing a National League team. And the American League, as good as the race is, it's pretty thin, right? I think we can agree that as fun as the race will be and has been in the American League, how many teams in the AL can legitimately win it? Can the Astros win it? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, you wouldn't be surprised if they did, but I mean, their expected win-loss is about 4 or 5 games below 500, and they're a game above 500. So I think the way that I want to play this is I want to back each of the American League teams that are currently over 500 or have an expected win-loss of over 500, and I want to at least double my money. So give me $3 on the Yankees. Give me $2 on Tampa Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And then just for ease, maybe give me $3 on Tampa Bay. So 3 on the Yankees, 3 on Tampa, and then I'll just take
Astros, White
each,
Sox.
$2 each on the White Sox and the Red Sox.
Not the Astros. You leave them out.
Not the Astros. You talk me out of it.
Yeah, Boston's an interesting. I feel like 13s is too low for Boston, right? It feels to me like they've gone back.
I'm showing them at 17s on tab. The White Sox at 26s. So, 17s maybe is a little bit more. Yeah, 13s I agree would be. Like tab showing the Cubs at 13s. You would rather have the Cubs at 13s than the Red Sox for sure.
Yeah, I think especially with these more than anything, much like preseason futures and awards betting, you have to shop around. Like the difference between prices in 5 books with an over 8.5 for a single game will be a couple of cents. But when you start to get to these, bigger multiple numbers for futures, like just comparing a 13s to a 17s for the Red Sox is crazy. And that's just looking at 2 books. I'm sure you could find something with a 2 in front of it if you hunted around 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah, and what we've done here is essentially Dodger hating for the second time on this program today, and probably not the last this week. Because if you wanted to double your money, that's probably the best bet to take at $2.70. Take the Dodgers, but to double your money and have a little bit of fun and find a team to beat them. Because look, if they do get to the World Series, at that point you could still probably hedge. Because what would the Dodgers be to win the series? $1.60, $1.70? It would be below even money, but you'd still probably be able to hedge somewhat when you're holding a ticket on the opponent at 17s or 20s or 30s.
It depends. Yeah, it depends who they come up against. If they come up against the Yankees, I'd probably be looking at 170, 230 as a split. But if someone like the Blue Jays went on a run or the Orioles went on a run from nowhere, and it is a pretty weak enough AL that's not out of the question, I think you could be looking $1.40, $3 come that series. Interesting, Crochet early in his ramp up, but if he can come back in September and October, that completely moves the needle for the Red Sox in a big way.
Yeah. And look, I think it's still going to be interesting to see how everything plays out because, I guess the Red Sox, you could say, are now comfortably into the playoffs, 6 games up on the Orioles. Where that race is actually quite interesting is there's now 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams, if you go all the way down to the Mariners at 59 and 66 that are all within 2 games of each other. So there's no telling what team's going to potentially fall into that last wild card spot, but they're likely going to be below 500. There's no way that you're going to touch that team. So I think just playing it as I want whoever's facing the Dodgers in the World Series, and I don't want to take the Dodgers at around about even money. So, find 4 teams, sprinkle a couple of bucks around, and hopefully that you're able to get to the World Series, and then you can maybe make a play from there.
Counter argument: the D-backs won the season series against the Dodgers, so who says they won't beat them in the?
I think the Cardinals did as well.
Yeah. I think that's what's crazy. Like the Dodgers this year, the team's better than last year, but they don't feel as unbeatable as they did last year. Like it feels like there's still some stuff kind of around, like the Kyle Tucker vibes, the Edwin Diaz vibes. Like I don't know, it doesn't feel like a $2.60 team. It doesn't feel like we're watching the 73 win Warriors. When they were kind of the same price in the NBA.
No, but there were times last year when we were saying the same thing about the Dodgers, right? We were like, "Is this really a dynasty? Can this team do it?" And then they should have lost the World Series. But in revisionist history on this podcast, they did. They did lose the World Series.
They never played a Game 7, allegedly.
I don't know that we've ever spoken about this, but we had an idea. Once Eric did get back from whatever, I don't know where he was at that point. In a different bush. We were just going to do a World Series as though Eric had just turned it off when the Blue Jays had a big lead or a lead in Game 7. And we were just going to do the whole podcast as if the Blue Jays had won the World Series and there was a parade in downtown Toronto. Like it was just going to be we should have done that. Yeah. I don't have a lot of regrets of things that we've missed out on the last 18, 24 months in this show, but that's one of them because that would have been such good fun.
The problem is to do that, we would have had to do it almost immediately, and Eric wasn't really ready to talk about baseball for like 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
So by the time we would have gotten everyone together to do that. It was like, dude, it's football season. What are you talking about?
Yeah, the notion had worn off of us. You're right. Like it almost needs to be in the immediate when you have a diehard fan who is
Like
that heartbroken.
emergency
It's kind
pod
of
the
hard
next day, but we need
Yeah.
Eric to have like 15 beers and get into the mood.
or an entire fifth of whiskey in a log cabin. It's just like what he did whenever the Maple Leafs got knocked out of the Stanley Cup playoffs last year. Well, look, let's move on to some tips. That's what a lot of people are here for. You've got 2 for us tomorrow. Look, things haven't been going great on the day-to-day tips. Thank God for futures, because the futures have been flying. Shota Imanaga now, I believe, is just 1 strikeout away from that future hitting. Obviously, you got the PCA one today, hoping he can get to 35. Potential that Jordan can still get to 40 as well. So a few of those futures are still live, a couple of the top-ups. But let's try and get on a bit of a heater with the day-to-day tips. And for your first tomorrow, you're going to Tigers Pirates.
Yeah, actually, Shota went back out for one more inning. He got to 10 today, so he did clip out 140 ticket. Yeah, which is nice. So look,
there you go.
As you said, I
must have looked at it early.
You can use all the famous sayings. Couldn't pick my nose. Couldn't tip water out of a bucket. It's all true over the last sort of week or so, and thank God for futures has been correct, because I think Schlittler cashed last week. Shota's now cashed. We've already hit PCA, Wood, and Jordan Alvarez, and a few of those big ones are quite in the hunt as well. You know, Chase Burns, 9 more, Yuri Perez, 17 more, and then some of those top-ups are still in play too. But we like to do the dailies. I like to do the dailies. I did until about 6 days ago. Something changed. Must have ran over a black cat on the way to work. But let's get this turned around tomorrow. I've got a best and a best value. Look, I think the best tomorrow is Braxton Ashcraft. 6 strikeouts or more at $1.96 at home against the Tigers. His strikeout rate this year at home has been so much better than his strikeout rate on the road. His numbers are better all around. And the Tigers strike out more on the road than they do at home. And Ashcraft's coming off a 10 strikeout performance last outing, which was his best of the season. And some of the numbers from that start are really impressive. And I think this is a guy who's continuing to get better as the season goes on. He struck out 10 Marlins, and the Marlins aren't a massive strikeout team. So, you know, when you're going up against the likes of Xavier Edwards, Otto Lopez, and you're striking out that lineup 10 times, he went 9 innings. He pitched a complete game and just allowed the 1 run. So I think this Tigers lineup is going to present an easier challenge, and at around even money for 6 or more strikeouts, I'm pretty happy to take him as the best of the day. For best value, tomorrow's an interesting one. There's like a lot of decent pitching going around, but not a whole lot of super like strong pitching matchups against each other. I thought this one was a lot of fun. Bryce Miller and Kyle Harrison, Mariners at Brewers. Look, the Mariners need to figure things out in a hurry. I think to be where they are after the season they had last year, and you know we've already talked about the likes of Cal Raleigh. They showed they believed in the 5 guys they've kept in this rotation by trading away Luis Castillo. And a big part of that's Bryce Miller, who's had some massive starts this year. And the last couple have just been okay. He's had 5 strikeouts in both of his last 2. I like the matchup for him tomorrow against the Brewers. And I really want to go back to the well on Kyle Harrison. He underperformed for me last time out, but I'm a forgiving kind of guy, as you well know. And the start before that, he had 10 strikeouts against the Tigers in 60 pitches or something like that. Against the Pirates, actually. It was the Skeens start matchup. He did come out of that start with the 10 strikeouts a little early due to an injury concern, and it just took him a little bit to get going in the start since that last week. Didn't get his first strikeout against the Padres till 50-something pitches. Then it seemed to click for him again. And if it clicks for him early tomorrow, he's got a great matchup against Seattle, who are 24th in baseball on strikeout. All of that said, give me both guys for 6 strikeouts at $3.40. I think it's the best pitching duel on the slate. And if they can both live up to that, that's a great price for our best value.
And look, there's no time like the present to get things going from a tips perspective. Again, you can follow all of tips or Spoon's tips at spaceballexpats.com. Click on the drop down and select MLB tips. What we might need to do, I was thinking about doing this, and this is, I'm giving you this one for free. You don't even need a wish for this one, is to actually track how the best of the day go. Because, look, although there have been some skids in the last couple of weeks, I want to say that the best of the day is probably does have a winning record in August, if I had to guess.
Yeah, and I think a bit of that comes back to, I spoke to Eric and yourself a couple of weeks ago when the tracker came out about now having maybe more of that data to tweak staking a little bit, like it's probably a case of if the best is the best, that shouldn't necessarily be staked at the same outlay as the rest of the card or a lot of the other players. And you see a lot of racing tipsters do the same thing. The stake will be a lot higher when it's a $1.90 or a $2 horse, and you just kind of sprinkle some of those value plays. So definitely something to look at. One more guy I wanted to mention who nearly made the cut, and he kind of burnt both of us last week with my play on Friday. Fortunately for you, Thomas Jenkins didn't score, so it wasn't the deciding factor in that little ticket you had cross sport. Cal Quantrill's an interesting one tomorrow. He had 6 strikeouts against the Angels last week and he's returned to the rotation. He's paying $1.91 for 4 strikeouts. He's paying $6 for 6 strikeouts against the Nationals, who swing and miss a fair bit. So I think he's worth having a look at, and he'll definitely be in the card tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that, as you said.
Here's a guy that I don't know that any of us thought we were ever going to be mentioning on this program, and he found himself on a 110-win theme team or something. He's found himself as part of the tips. He
was in your Destiny draft at one point.
Probably. There's probably a better than, I think he was on my team one week. There's probably a better than fair chance we could get Cal Quantrill on the show, to be fair. I would love that. If just when he retires, Cal Quantrill wants to come be the 4th member of Baseball Expats, I would love that.
Yeah. Well, I think we've given him, maybe with the exception of like PCA, the Diamondbacks, Ohtani, and a couple of other guys, he's probably in our most referenced. Like, he is trending in expat sphere consistently.
Well, and of all the guys you just mentioned, including the entire Arizona Diamondbacks team, which is like when you pull a team card whenever we do Destiny Draft, I think Cal Quantrill is probably the most gettable of those guys that you mentioned. Nothing against Cal. We love you. We want you to come on the show. I heard
Ketel Marte has a lot of free time at the moment.
Yeah, we may be able to get him on tomorrow.
Yeah, well, during first pitch.
Yeah. We may be able to watch the game live with Ketel Marte in Boston tomorrow. Well, look, you can head to baseballexpats.com, follow along with Destiny Draft and Spoon's picks. All of that is in the drop down, and we will be back on Friday. I'll be in Taiwan. Eric will be back. We're going to give him a few things that have happened and haven't happened and see if he can guess which is which. That weirdly enough, Spoon, it's already been a perfect week for it because we've already got a couple things that we can throw his way based on what we've talked about today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're going to need to throw a couple of doozies in there early where he just goes, wow, that happened. And we go, no, of course that didn't happen. And then
you
we
mean
say,
like Ivan Herrera getting a ball authenticated when he threw a guy out for the first time since 2022?
Yeah, but if all our stories are specific, he's just going to guess it happened, right? We need to throw him off the scent and then tell him, the all-star second baseman from the Diamondbacks didn't turn up to the game.
Jimmy Crooks would have hit for the cycle, but instead he just decided to triple twice. Something like that, right? It needs to be team-specific to one of our guys, but like obviously kind of unbelievable.
Ryan Stanek threw an immaculate inning.
Yeah, which could happen. He's actually been pitching pretty well. Shout out Ryan Stanek. Like Kyle Tucker getting booed twice at Dodger Stadium, Ketel Marte just not showing up, and Ivan Herrera getting a ball authenticated when it was his first guy to catch stealing, which was Ellie De La Cruz, by the way. He's not an easy guy to catch stealing, but the first caught stealing that he's had 33 attempts this year. He was asked, I don't know if you saw it, but he was asking JJ for the ball. So they originally called him safe, and Ollie he decided that he wanted to challenge it, and like everybody on the field is laughing, Herrera's laughing, and then like as it turned out, like JJ got him on the bum right before the hand got him, and like the whole team goes nuts, the bench goes nuts, and they show Ivan Herrera, and he's just looking at JJ doing the ball side, and they threw it into the dugout, and the camera just followed it all the way to the authentication guy. Like it was hilarious. Like you would have thought about it like it was like a big league first or something like this, coming off the back of like 2 days ago. Joshua Baez homers in 3 consecutive at-bats for the first time in his career, his first 3 at-bats of his career, something that's never happened in big league history. And Ivan Herrera's like, can I get that baseball? First time I've thrown the guy out in 2.5 years.
These are the fun shenanigans that build culture for the years to come, right? Like even if this wild card race doesn't kind of come to fruition for the Cardinals, these are the moments that you build on in future seasons.
Yeah, and like it weirdly feels like, I mean, they lost that game today by giving up a home run with 2 outs in the 9th inning. Same sort of deals that we were talking about with PCA. The Cardinals decided to pitch to Ellie De La Cruz in the 10th to begin the inning in a tie game when first base is open. Like it didn't make any sense to me. And they ended up losing that game. But it feels like ever since that Joshua Baez game, like the whole vibe around the team is a lot different. And I know I sent it to you earlier today. Like, of the 5 outs that he had in the doubleheader today that were put in play, the softest hit was 105 off the bat. One of them was 112. So it's like he's not getting rewarded. Like, his XBA on his 5 balls in play today was like 550. So he's not getting rewarded. But like, if he continues to hit the ball that hard, the kid's going to have a lot of success. And I think the one thing that we are seeing with him as well is that Jordan Walker's had a couple good games because finally he's got a little bit of power protecting him. And it's not Jose Fermin's scrappy bat hitting in 5th. They can move Jose Fermin to 6th and give somebody that'll put in a good long at bat, can draw a walk after a high strikeout guy like Joshua Baez. So look, I don't want to get ahead of my skis. I know it's a guy that I've been calling for a lot, but like, he's completely changed the complexion of the lineup. And it's already made a big difference, even though he's not necessarily getting hits after that big day that he had the other day. And so something to look forward to, like you said, at least even if the Cardinals don't get there, it's something that we can look forward to and pray for baseball in 2027 anyways, even though I don't think we're going to get it. Anyways, look, head to baseballexpats.com. You can, as I talked about, look at Spoon's Big League picks. We'll keep those up and going all week, and we'll be back on Friday. But until then, enjoy your week. Enjoy your baseball. Bye, everybody.